I transmigrated. I became a cannon fodder rich second-generation character in a feel-good novel who wouldn't live past 3 chapters. There was no system, no golden finger bestowed upon me. My only advantage was that I knew the entire plot. To survive, I decided to completely lie flat and be a salted fish who eats and waits to die. The first thing I did was kick out the icy CEO fiancé from the original book who ruined my family and caused our downfall. I just want to quietly enjoy life. So why does this plot seem to be getting more and more wrong? Ethan, what trick are you trying to play this time? A cold voice sounded in my ear, laced with undisguised disgust and impatience. I forced my eyes open, my head throbbing from the hangover. What came into view was a face that could only be called breathtaking. The features were as exquisitely formed as God's finest work. Fair skin, a high-bridged nose. Yet the phoenix-like eyes were filled with frost, as if they could freeze a person. She was wearing a well-tailored black, professional suit, her demeanor cool and aloof, like an ice queen perched on high. Sophia. The name popped into my head in an instant. Immediately after, a flood of information surged in like a tide, making my temples throb fiercely. I'm transmigrated into a male-oriented wish-fulfillment novel I had just complained about before bed. I became the cannon fodder rich second generation who stole another man's woman and ended up ruined and ruined his family, Ethan. And the icy beauty in front of me is my fiancée. And one of the triggers for my tragic ending in the original book, the president of the Taylor Group, Sophia. In the original book, I was an uneducated rake, addicted to wine and women, all looks and no substance. Betrothed to Sophia in a business marriage, he nevertheless pestered her endlessly and harassed her. At a party, he attempted to assault the original female lead Emma Wilson, only to be heroically stopped by the original male lead Kevin White, who then suppressed him all the way until his company went bankrupt and he jumped to his death. Lived for less than 3 chapters. What the hell? My heart churned, and my stomach followed suit, turning queasy. What, still drunk? Sophia sneered more deeply when I stayed silent. Ethan, I warn you, stop using that act of playing the victim. I'm not interested in you. Our engagement is just an exchange of benefits between our families. Behave yourself. It's better for both of us. Her voice was like tempered ice. Every word stabbed at the heart. If it were the original owner, he would probably shamelessly crawl closer now and say something like, Sophia, I love you, I'm sincere, that kind of lies. But I am not. Me, Ethan, was an ordinary overworked corporate drone before transmigrating. My biggest dream was to win a $5 million lottery and retire early, living a salty life of waking up naturally every day with no worries about food or drink. Now it's great. The lottery didn't hit, but I instantly became a top-tier second-generation rich heir. Although I'm a cannon fodder, as long as I don't go courting death and don't provoke the original novel's male and female leads, with the Johnson family's obscene wealth, lazily lying flat until death isn't a dream. What CEO beauties, what jealous rivalries. All of that can go to hell. I just want to lie flat and do nothing. At that thought, my brain, fuzzy from a hangover and information overload, cleared in an instant. Rule number 1 for survival. Stay away from Sophia and break off the engagement. I lounged back on the sofa, rubbed my aching temples, too lazy to even look at her, and said casually, "Oh, got it." My reaction clearly took Sophia by surprise. All the cutting remarks she had ready were swallowed up. She furrowed her pretty brows and looked me over critically. "You," I said. I lifted my eyelids to meet her cold gaze, tugged at the corner of my mouth, and enunciated each word. "Let's call off our engagement, Miss Taylor." The air went instantly dead silent. For the first time, a crack appeared on Sophia's eternally unchanging icy face. She froze, her phoenix-like eyes full of astonishment and disbelief. It was as if she had heard something utterly fantastical. "What did you say?" She suspected she'd misheard. I said, "Break up, call off the engagement, got it?" I dug at my ear and repeated impatiently, "I'm not interested in you either, so consider this engagement over. You go your way on the sunny road, I'll cross my lone bridge." Don't bother me again, okay? I stood up, walked to the liquor cabinet, poured myself a glass of plain water, and tilted my head back to drink. The cool liquid slid down my throat, clearing my mind a little. Sophia finally came to her senses from the shock. Her expression visibly darkened, the knuckles of the hand holding the coffee cup paling slightly. She thought this was another one of my new tricks to play hard to get. Ethan, put away that ridiculous act of yours. She snorted coldly. Trying to get my attention this way? Childish. I finished my water and set the glass down hard on the table. It gave a crisp clink. Miss Taylor, do you think too highly of yourself? I turned around and looked at her with amusement. Do you think of the US dollar, loved by everyone? I really, truly have not the slightest interest in you. I stuck out my pinky and made a small gesture. I used to be, well, I used to be ignorant. Now I've come to my senses. I opened my hands, my face full of sincerity. Compared to an iceberg like you, I prefer the Simmons bed at home. So the engagement is off, that's that. I'll tell my parents, and you can notify the Taylor family. After speaking, I was too lazy to look at her extraordinary face any longer and turned straight toward the upstairs bedroom. Oh, by the way, I sat at the top of the stairs as if I had remembered something, turning back to add, don't come into my house casually from now on. Men and women should keep their distance, Miss Taylor. I'm very tired and need to catch up on sleep. Help yourself. With a bang, I closed the bedroom door, shutting the whole world out. Lying on the soft bed that could swallow a person up, I let out a long breath. To hell with the plot. To hell with the male and female leads. I'm going to start the blissful idle life I've always dreamed of. I slept like the dead in the big bed. When I woke again, it was to the jarring ring of a phone. I fumbled for my phone and, without looking, swiped to answer. Hello. My voice was thick with nasal congestion, very hoarse. Mr. Johnson, you finally picked up. A man's voice on the other end sounded extremely anxious. Where are you? If you don't come to today's board meeting, those old men will flip out. Board meeting? I froze for a moment, then remembered that although the original had no real skills, she was nominally the titular deputy CEO of the Johnson Group. The man on the phone was David Brown, my chief aide, an extremely capable fellow who had the misfortune of being treated like a lackey by the original. No, I said succinctly. David was stunned. Mr. Johnson, today's meeting is about development of the Nanching plot. Taylor Group is also bidding. If you aren't there, we'll be at a serious disadvantage. That plot of land in South City? A scene from the story flashed through my mind. Oh, I remember now. In the original book, it was a disaster. Sophia, to show off her ability, overruled everyone and took that land. Halfway through development, they discovered antiquities beneath it. The project was immediately halted, and she lost everything. This was also the beginning of the Taylor Group's decline from prosperity. At the time, the original owner foolishly invested a large sum to please Sophia, and of course it was money down the drain. His father scolded him mercilessly. Why would I bother jumping into such a big pit? We're not touching that land, I said decisively. But Mr. Johnson, based on our assessment, that parcel of land has extremely high commercial value. It would be such a waste to give it up. David was still trying to persuade me. I said we won't touch it, and we won't touch it. My tone brooked no argument. David, listen, from today on, that piece of land in South City and all projects that compete with the Taylor Group, Johnson Group will not participate in any of them. Understood. Silence on the other end of the line. After a long moment, David replied in an extremely complicated tone. Yes, I understand, Mr. Johnson. He probably thought I had been heartbroken by Sophia, that love had turned to hate, and I wanted to draw a clear line with the Taylor Group. Let him think whatever he wants. Also, I yawned and continued to instruct. Fire those deputy directors in the company who spend all day flattering and have no real ability. Also, recruit a programmer named Leo Green from the games department, promote him and give him a raise, and have him lead the development of an open-world mobile game called The Age of Myth. Budget unlimited. Tell him I only want the best. This Leo Green was a buried genius in the original book. Because he didn't understand office politics, he offended his superiors and was constantly suppressed. Later, the original male lead, Kevin White, recognized his talent and poached him, and he developed a game that took the world by storm, becoming a great help to the male lead. Now, this cash cow belongs to me. David was so shocked on the other end that he was speechless. Firing executives, promoting a junior programmer, developing a new game. Is this still the same Mr. Johnson who only cared about eating, drinking, and having fun? Mr. Johnson, are you sure? I'm sure. Do as I say. I couldn't be bothered to explain. Don't call me unless it's important. I'm going to sleep. After saying that, I hung up, put my phone on silent, and tossed it aside. The world finally became quiet. I turned over, ready to get back to my nap. Meanwhile, in the president's office of the Taylor Group, Sophia listened to her assistant's report with an icy expression. At today's board meeting, the Johnson Group, announced by Special Assistant David Brown, officially withdrew from the bid for the South City Development Project. What? Sophia suddenly looked up, a flash of astonishment in her eyes. She had thought Ethan's words yesterday were just hot air, a play to lure her in. He actually meant it, not only to break off the engagement, but to draw a clear line with her in business too. What's the reason? She asked coldly. The assistant glanced at her cautiously and said in a low voice, I heard. Mr. Johnson gave the order himself. And he also said that in the future, Johnson Group will not participate in any projects that compete with the Taylor Group. A strange tightness settled in Sophia's chest. An indescribable emotion surged up. Was it anger? Or disappointment? She shook her head, trying to shake the odd feeling out of her mind. I'm putting on a show. She tugged at the corner of her mouth, revealing a mocking, cold smile. Who does he think he is? Without the Johnson family's backing, he's nothing. It's better he withdrew, saves us the trouble. The Nanching project is ours to win. She picked up the documents on the table, her tone returning to its customary icy, authoritative manner. Notify everyone. Prepare to bid with everything we've got. By any means necessary, we must secure that plot in Nanching. Yes, Miss Taylor. After the assistant left, Sophia was the only one left in the office. She looked at the towering buildings outside the window. For some reason, Ethan's lazy, slightly mocking face from yesterday kept appearing in her mind. And that line, you think you're the dollar. Everyone loves you. Sophia clenched her fist, her nails digging deeply into her palm. Ethan, just you wait. I'll make you see that looking down on me, Sophia, was the stupidest decision you ever made in your life. I slept straight through until noon the next day. I was woken up by hunger. I padded downstairs barefoot, intending to find something to eat. The huge villa was empty, so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. The original owner's parents lived abroad for years. Only an hourly housekeeper came regularly to clean. That suits me perfectly. I opened the massive double-door refrigerator. It was packed with all kinds of high-end ingredients, from Australian Wagyu to French blue lobster, everything imaginable. Too bad I don't know how to cook. I rummaged through the cabinets and finally found only a packet of instant noodles. All right then, instant noodles it is. Just as I was boiling water, preparing to deal with a meal, the doorbell rang. I couldn't be bothered to move, thinking it was probably a salesperson, so I ignored it. But the doorbell kept ringing persistently, as if determined to keep going forever unless I opened the door. I walked over impatiently and yanked the door open. Who is it? Can't people be left alone? My words were stuck in my throat. A girl stood in the doorway. She wore a simple white dress, her long hair reaching her waist, her face bare of makeup, yet astonishingly beautiful. Her beauty was different from Sophia's aggressive, icy sharpness. It was a kind of gentleness and beauty, like a spring breeze on the face, like warm sun shining on snow. A pair of clear, deer-like eyes, as if they could speak, were looking at me now with a hint of curiosity and apology. Emma Wilson, the original novel's female lead. The culprit who caused me, this cannon fodder, to be disgraced and ultimately jump off a building. The alarm in my head went off instantly. Danger! extremely dangerous. Second rule for survival. Stay away from the original book's female lead. Who are you looking for? I asked expressionlessly, my tone cold. Emma was taken aback by my indifference, then offered an apologetic smile, her voice soft and pleasant. Hello, is this Mr. Ethan's house? My name is Emma Wilson. I'm from Loop Bistro. You left a comment on our restaurant's website yesterday, saying our escargot wasn't authentic, so my grandfather specially had a fresh batch made and asked me to bring it for you to try. As she spoke, she lifted a delicate food box in her hand. That's when I remembered. After hanging up with David yesterday, I was bored and surfing the web. The original owner was a top foodie with very high standards. I casually clicked into the website of the city's most famous private restaurant, Loop Bistro. Seeing their signature dish, French-baked escargot, and drawing on the original owner's memories, I wrote a rambling review of over 1,000 words, criticizing everything from ingredient selection to timing to the sauce preparation, leaving no stone unturned. Unexpectedly, the person in charge actually came looking for me, and she's the heroine coming to my door in person. I looked at her innocent, harmless face, and only one thought crossed my mind. Go away. Stay as far from me as possible. Oh, I just wrote it casually. You don't have to take it seriously. I was about to close the door. Don't. Emma was quick and trapped the door with her foot. Her deer-like eyes blinked at me with a hint of pleading. Mr. Johnson, my grandfather says you're a real expert, that every one of your comments hits the mark. We really want to improve. Please, could you just try a bite and give us your feedback? Her voice was soft, making it hard to refuse. But I knew this woman was a walking troublemaker. Whoever got involved with her would be unlucky. I don't have time, I said coldly, trying to push her foot away. At that moment, my stomach let out an untimely grumble. The sound was especially clear in the quiet hallway. The air froze. Emma's eyes widened instantly. Then she burst out laughing with a puff. When she smiled like that, it was as if the whole world lit up. My cheeks were a little warm. Damn it, how embarrassing. Mr. Johnson, are you hungry? Emma asked, her eyes smiling. Just so happens the French-baked escargot is still hot. Why don't you do me a favor and have some while you're at it? Fill your stomach. Okay. She started acting coquettish. I looked at the food box in her hand, emitting an enticing aroma, then touched my own empty stomach, a battle between heaven and man. Reason told me I should send her away, but my stomach was shouting. I want to eat escargots baked in the French style. Just one bite. I struggled for 3 seconds, but in the end, I surrendered to the delicious food. Great! Emma cheered happily like a little rabbit that had just gotten candy. I let her in. She skillfully placed the dishes from the food container one by one on the dining table. A small ramekin of French-baked escargot, accompanied by several plates of exquisite side dishes. That rich, overpowering aroma instantly filled the entire living room. I swallowed helplessly. Mr. Johnson, have a taste. Emma handed me a pair of chopsticks, her eyes full of expectation as she looked at me. I picked up the spoon and scooped a spoonful of golden sauce. The sauce hit my tongue, rich and savory, the essences of various ingredients perfectly blended, yet still distinct in layers. I closed my eyes and savored slowly. The cooking time was right, but the sauce seemed to be missing an element to brighten the flavor. How was it? Emma asked nervously. Much better than yesterday. I opened my eyes and evaluated objectively, but it still falls a bit short. What's lacking? She immediately asked like an eager student. The sauce. I set down the spoon. Did you only use butter, white wine, and herbs? Emma widened her eyes in surprise. How did you know? Missing soul, I said calmly. Real French escargots in the shell require one thing in the sauce, truffle oil. Not ordinary truffle oil, but black truffle oil, and it must be diluted with olive oil before use. Only a sauce prepared that way can be called truly flavorful. Emma listened, stupefied, then took out her phone and rapidly began taking notes. Truffle oil, diluted with olive oil, she wrote while looking up at me, her eyes shining with admiration. Mr. Johnson, you're amazing. Are you a chef? No. I was too lazy to argue and buried my head in the food. I have to admit, though it was slightly lacking, the French-baked escargot was still a heavenly delicacy. I devoured it in no time, soon scraping the bottom of the little dish. Emma sat beside me, propping her chin on her hand, smiling as she watched me eat, saying nothing. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling window, landing on her long eyelashes and casting a small shadow. The scene was so beautiful it felt unreal. I finished the last bite, put down the bowl and chopsticks, and contentedly belched. "Thanks for the meal," I said. "I'm glad you like it." Emma stood up and began clearing the dishes. "Well, Mr. Johnson, to thank you, may I often bring you new dishes from our restaurant in the future for you to try?" This plot is wrong. In the original book, Emma and the original owner met for the first time at a banquet. The original owner fell in love with her at first sight and then started harassing her. How did it become her taking the initiative to come find me now? No need. I refused decisively. I'm a lazy person. I don't like being disturbed. But Emma bit her lip in grievance, her doe eyes brimming with tears, as if I had said something unforgivable. "My grandfather said we must get on good terms with you. He said you're a once-in-a-century culinary genius." "That's your grandfather's problem. I was impervious. I ate the food and gave my opinion. You can go now." I gave her the boot. Emma's eyes instantly reddened. She kept her head down, quietly packing up the food box, glancing back every few steps as she walked toward the door. That pitiful look made her resemble a little dog abandoned by its owner. I felt nothing. A femme fatale, stay away from me. Just as she was about to step out the door, she suddenly stopped, turned around, and mustered the courage to say to me, "Mr. Johnson, can I add you on Messenger? I promise I won't bother you. It's just, in the future, if I have questions about food, I'd like to ask for your advice." I stared at her without expression. She grew a bit guilty under my gaze, her voice getting smaller and smaller. Just one messenger. I sighed. I know that, given the momentum of the plot, even if I refuse today, she'll still come back tomorrow with all sorts of reasons. Better to unblock than block. "Give me your phone," I said. Emma's eyes lit up, and she hurriedly handed her phone over. I entered my number, added her as a friend, and then handed the phone back to her. "All right, you can go now." "Thank you, Mr. Johnson." Emma clasped her hands in gratitude like she'd found a treasure, bowed to me, and then ran off happily. I watched her retreating figure and massaged my temples. I hope this little troublemaker will behave a bit more from now on. I returned to the living room, preparing to go upstairs and continue sleeping. After only a couple of steps, I noticed beside the unopened instant noodles on the dining table something quietly sitting there, a pink bento box. I walked over and opened it to take a look. Inside were several exquisitely cute rabbit-shaped mousse cakes. Beside them was a small note, written in delicate handwriting. "There don't seem to be many snacks in your home. I made these myself. I hope you like them. Emma." I stared at those adorably irresistible little bunnies and fell into thought. This woman has something going for her. In the days that followed, I lived the leisurely life I had always dreamed of. Every day, I slept until I woke up naturally, then ate, worked out, and played games. I handed all the company's affairs over to David. That kid really is a talent. I only had to move my lips, and he got everything handled perfectly. The few sycophantic executives I fired packed their things and left that same day, without causing so much as a ripple. As for the prodigy programmer I promoted, Leo Green, he was fired up after receiving the unlimited budget Imperial Seal. He threw himself and his newly formed team into developing the new game Age of Mythos day and night. They say progress was making leaps and bounds. And the plot of land in South City. Just as I expected, the Taylor Group outbid everyone with a very high offer and successfully secured it. When the news broke, the whole business world was praising Sophia's boldness and tactics, saying she truly deserved to be the heir of the Taylor family. David sounded anxious on the phone. "Mr. Johnson, the Taylor Group is getting all the attention this time. Over here, because of your previous orders, several projects have been stalled recently, And there's been talk saying that after ending your engagement with Miss Taylor, you fell into despair and gave up on your career. Let them talk, I said, lying in my private cinema, sipping my homemade wine and watching an old movie, so comfortable I was nearly asleep. But this has a big impact on the company's stock price. How much has it dropped? It's already fallen for 3 consecutive days. Oh, I replied, completely unperturbed. Let it fall, let it fall. After a while, when Sophia's project blows up, my stock price will naturally go back up. Is this the joy of holding the information advantage? Quietly watching others sprint down the wrong path, while I can just lie down and still win. Nice. Mr. Johnson. David still wanted to say something. Enough, don't bother me. I cut him off. The sky isn't going to fall. By the way, do me a favor. Say it. Help me find out where in Jing City makes the best Western food. List all the national cuisines for me. I want those family restaurants hidden in back alleys, not trendy, internet-famous places. David, he was silent for a full 10 seconds, then replied in a tone of utter resignation. All right, Mr. Johnson. I hung up and went back to enjoying my movie. As for Emma, ever since she added me on Messenger that day, she really hasn't bothered me. She just unfailingly sends me a food photo every morning, paired with a good morning. Sometimes it's a new dish from her shop. Sometimes it's a dessert she made herself. The photos are taken so beautifully they make your mouth water. I usually don't reply. Occasionally, if something looks especially tempting, I'll respond with the or not bad. Even so, she still lights up like a child every time. Emma, great. You think it's not bad? Then I'll add it to the menu tomorrow. Emma. Rabbit throwing flowers to GIF. I looked at the screen, and the corner of my mouth couldn't help but twitch. This girl is adorably a little silly. That afternoon, I was sweating profusely in the gym. 8-pack abs and a V-line. These were the few quality assets the original owner left me, and I had to maintain them well. After all, a great body is the capital for lying flat. I had just finished a set of bench presses when my phone rang. It was David. What's wrong now? I asked impatiently. Mr. Johnson, there's been an incident. David's voice was more anxious than ever. The Taylor Group has had an accident. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, that fast. The plot in the southern city. While digging, they unearthed an ancient tomb. I calmly picked up a towel and wiped the sweat from my face. The construction site has now been completely shut down, and an archaeological team has moved in. The tens of millions of dollars Taylor Group invested in the early stages have all gone down the drain. Taylor Group's stock has already hit the daily limit down. Everything outside is in chaos. David's voice held a trace of lingering fear and relief. Mr. Johnson, how? How did you know there was something wrong with that plot of land? You're incredible. Just lucky, I said lightly. Of course, I couldn't tell him I had activated God mode. Now everyone knows that plot in South City is a sinkhole. The companies that failed to win the bid are all relieved. And we at Johnson Group were the first to announce our withdrawal. David's voice trembled with excitement. Now it's being said outside that you have great foresight and an eagle eye. Our company stock price just hit the daily limit. Me, it hit the limit already. I only wanted to avoid a pit. Also, David continued to report excitedly. That game programmer you asked me to keep an eye on before, Leo Green. He and his team finished a game demo, and it was spotted by a scouting delegation from a top overseas game company. They immediately offered $500 million to buy our project. Not for sale. I didn't hesitate. $500 million, and they think they could buy my cash cow? Dream on. Tell Leo to go all out. If he needs more money, he can come to me. Yes, I understand. After hanging up, I stared at the reflection in the mirror. My figure was insanely good, and fell into thought. I clearly hadn't done anything, just avoided a risk and promoted a talented person. How did I end up being called a business genius by others? This effortless victory feels way too good. Just then, my phone rang again. It's an unfamiliar number. I frowned and answered. Hello. A cool, slightly trembling female voice came from the other end of the line. Ethan, it was Sophia. Something wrong. My tone was flat, as if speaking to a stranger. Silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her slightly hurried breathing. She must be feeling awful right now. The project she fought for against all objections had become a hot potato overnight. The company's stock hit the daily limit down, and shareholders had probably already worn out the threshold of her office. The once lofty ice queen must be enduring unprecedented pressure and doubt at this moment. How did you? No. After a long time, she finally spoke with difficulty. Know what? I pretended not to understand while fully aware. The land in Nanchung. There was a trace of unwillingness in her voice. Did you know something in advance? Miss Taylor, that's a boring thing to say. I chuckled lightly. I simply don't want to cooperate with the Taylor Group. As for that plot of land, let's just say you were unlucky. Unlucky? Sophia's voice suddenly shot up, tinged with hysteria. I don't believe it. Ethan, tell me, how on earth did you find out? I said luck. I was too lazy to argue with her. If you called just to ask that, then I'm hanging up. I'm very busy. Don't hang up, she cried out hurriedly. I can imagine her helplessness and despair at this moment. For someone who was raised from childhood to be the heir and who must always be the best, a favored daughter of heaven, this failure is undoubtedly a devastating blow. She needs a reason, something that will allow her to accept her own failure. For example, that her opponent was cheating. Too bad. I don't want to be that excuse. Miss Taylor, accept reality. I said coolly. Investing carries risks. Enter the market with caution. You should understand that better than I do. After I hung up, I ended the call. Listening to the busy tone, beep, beep, coming from the phone, Sophia's hand holding the phone dropped limply. She slumped onto the cold floor, her back against the huge floor-to-ceiling window. Outside the window was the business empire she had once been proud of, and now that empire was teetering on the brink of collapse. Luck, she murmured, tears finally escaping and sliding down her cheeks. Why? Why of all people did it have to be Ethan, the one she looked down on, the one she thought was a fool, who so easily avoided this pitfall, and she suffered such a huge fall? She was unwilling to accept it. The Sophia project collapsed, and Johnson Group's stock hit the daily limit. These two pieces of news appeared together on the business section's front page the next day. For a time, I became the focus of discussion throughout the whole business world. That prodigal son who had once been treated by everyone as a joke, overnight, seemed reborn, becoming a business genius with ingenious strategies. Hashtag Ethan didn't get out of bed today. Hashtag this topic even shot up to the top of Twitter trends. Clicking in, it was all various silly netizens showering praise. Holy shit, what kind of divine move is this from Ethan? He foresaw there was an ancient tomb underground in advance. Upstairs, this is called having vision. Ethan said he won't compete with the Taylor Group. What's that? It's called refusing to associate with losers. I hereby declare that from today on, Ethan is my one and only male god. Handsome, rich, and smart. What kind of immortal domineering CEO is this? Am I the only one curious? Did Ethan even get out of bed today? At Johnson Group official Twitter. I looked at these comments, amused and exasperated. I really just want to lie flat. Ding dong. The messenger notified me. It's Emma. Emma. Mr. Johnson, you're amazing. Starry-eyed. I replied with a question mark. Emma, I saw the news. You have such foresight. My grandpa also said you're incredible. He said if he had a grandson like you, he'd wake up laughing from his dreams. Me? Emma. By the way, Mr. Johnson, to celebrate, can I treat you to dinner tonight? Pay for my meal? I was about to refuse. But then I thought, in the original owner's memories, there was indeed a newly opened French restaurant, and it was said the head chef was Michelin level. I had always wanted to try it. Me? Sure. Let's go to Spring Garden. Emma, great. Great. I'll book a table right away. 6 o'clock in the evening. I'll pick you up. Looking at the lively sticker she sent, my mood inexplicably brightened a little. At 6 in the evening, Emma pulled up on my door in a red Beetle, right on time. She was wearing a pale yellow dress today that made her skin look even fairer. She appeared gentle and radiant. "Mr. Johnson." She saw me and waved at me happily. I sat in the passenger seat and fastened my seatbelt. There was a faint scent of gardenia in the car. It smelled very nice. Spring Garden is decorated in an antique style with a serene atmosphere. Emma was clearly a regular here. As soon as the manager saw her, he warmly led us to a private room by the window. "Order whatever you want, anything." Emma pushed the menu in front of me and said generously. I didn't stand on ceremony either and ordered several of the restaurant's signature French dishes. Foie gras, escargot au gratin, roast lamb chops. While waiting for the food, Emma propped her chin on her hand, her bright deer-like eyes staring at me without blinking. "Mr. Johnson, you look really good today," she exclaimed sincerely. I was dressed very casually today, a white linen shirt and a pair of casual trousers. "Is that so?" I replied lightly. Being praised by a beauty still made me a little smug inside. She nodded vigorously. "It just feels like you seem a bit tired. Has work at the company been too busy lately?" "Me? Lately all I've done is eat and sleep. Where's the busy?" "No, I just simply want to sleep." I was telling the truth. Emma, however, wore an expression of "I understand." "Mr. Johnson, you don't have to hide it from me." She lowered her voice and said mysteriously, "My grandfather told me that business geniuses like you who plan and strategize always seem relaxed on the surface, but behind the scenes they endure countless nights and analyze endless data. You must have sacrificed a lot for the company, right?" I looked at her face, written all over with sympathy and admiration, and for a moment I was at a loss for words. Fine, let her imagine whatever she wants. The dishes arrived quickly. No wonder he's a Michelin chef. Every dish was flawless. I ate my fill and was completely satisfied. Emma hardly ate. She just watched me with a smiling face, occasionally picking food for me. "Mr. Johnson, eat more slowly. No one is going to snatch it from you." "Mr. Johnson, try this foie gras. It melts in your mouth." "Mr. Johnson, have some soup." I feel like a useless person being fed, but this feeling was actually pretty nice. After finishing our meal, we walked out of the restaurant. The evening breeze blew gently, feeling very pleasant on the skin. "I'll walk you back," Emma said. "No, I'll walk a bit to help digest. Then I'll accompany you." So, the two of them walked slowly side by side along the road. Neither spoke, yet the atmosphere wasn't awkward at all. They were walking when a commotion came from ahead. A group of small-time thugs had surrounded an old woman running a street stall, apparently collecting protection money. "You old witch, if you don't pay today, forget about setting up shop here." A blonde punk sneered as he kicked over the old woman's stall, scattering the little trinkets everywhere. The old woman trembled with fear, clutching the blonde's leg and begging pitifully. Passers-by around pointed and whispered, but no one dared to step forward. Emma's brows knitted instantly. Without a second thought, she quickened her pace and walked over. "What are you doing?" In broad daylight. "You dare bully an old woman." She spread her arms, shielding the old lady as if she were a brave little hen. My heart gave a jolt. Fine, the heroine's halo has activated. This kind of hero-saving beauty plot is usually the cue for the original book's male lead to make his appearance. I don't want to get involved. The blonde glanced Emma up and down, whistled, and said, "Ooh, a pretty little chick showed up. What? You here to stand up for this old hag?" "I'm calling the police." Emma took out her phone and said, feigning calm, "Call the police?" The blonde laughed as if he'd heard a joke, snatched her phone, threw it to the ground, and crushed it with a stomp. "Little sister, don't refuse the wine and then cry about it. If you make us feel good today, we'll let this old woman go. How about that?" As he spoke, the blonde reached out to touch Emma's face. Emma went pale with fright and kept stepping back. I sighed. Troublesome. I strolled forward leisurely and grabbed the blonde guy's wrist as he reached for Emma. Yikes. The blonde sucked in a breath at the pain. His wrist felt as if clamped in iron, unable to move. "You little shit. Who the hell are you? How dare you meddle in my business?" He bared his teeth in pain. I didn't speak. I applied a little pressure with my hand. A crisp crack sounded. Huang Mao's wrist bent at a grotesque angle. Ah! A butcher-like scream rent the night. The other few thugs were stunned. They hadn't expected that I, this delicate-looking pretty boy, would strike so hard. My hand is broken. Yellow hair clutched his wrist and rolled on the ground. Get lost. I spat the word coldly. Those few thugs woke up from a daze, scrambled to help the blondie up, and ran off in a terrified heap. The world finally became quiet. Emma still stood frozen in place, staring at me in shock. In her pretty doe eyes, besides shock, there was a hint of an unusual gleam. I ignored her, crouched down, and helped the old lady pick up the items from the ground one by one. Thank you, young man. The old grandmother was in tears of gratitude. No problem. I returned the items to her. Young man, you really are a good person. The old grandmother picked up a woven talisman from her stall and pressed it in my hand. This is for you, to keep you safe and sound. I had wanted to refuse, but seeing the old grandmother's sincere eyes, I still accepted it. Thank you. After I finished dealing with things here, I turned back to look at Emma. She was still standing in place, staring straight at me. What are you looking at? I asked. Ethan, she whispered my name. It was the first time she called me by both first and last name. You were just so handsome. Two flushes rose on her cheeks, her eyes sparkling, filled with little stars. Me? Oh no, this is going to be a big problem. Since that night, Emma's attitude toward me has clearly changed. Before it had been admiration tinged with a bit of awe. Now it's blatant obsession. She was no longer content with just saying good morning to me on Messenger. Instead, she came to my house every day, trying different ways. One day she brought cookies she baked herself. The next day, she brought a newly learned fancy soup. They grandly called it repaying the debt of a life saved. I was utterly annoyed, but couldn't drive her away. The girl had thin skin. When I said something harsh, her eyes would redden, making me look like a bully picking on a virtuous young woman. Worst of all, the things she brought were damned perfect for my taste. I could only resent her for being annoying while disgracefully finishing everything. That day, I was in the living room watching a food documentary when Emma showed up again. She had brought a huge box today. Ethan, look what I brought you, she said, opening the box like someone showing off a treasure. A fluffy, round ragdoll cat was using its sapphire-like big eyes to look at me with curiosity. Meow, the kitten piped softly, instantly melting my heart. Before I transmigrated, I had always wanted to have a cat, but circumstances wouldn't allow it. Now, I looked at the ragdoll cat reaching out a little paw to me, and my emotional defenses collapsed in an instant. It's called Machi. Cute, right? Emma picked up Machi and held it out to me. I was afraid you'd be bored at home by yourself, so I let it come keep you company. I reached out and gently stroked Machi's head. So soft. Machi seemed to like me too, rubbing its cheek against my palm. Do you like it? Emma asked expectantly. I cleared my throat and said calmly, pretending to be composed, it's okay. Though I said that, my hands honestly picked up Machi, holding it in my arms and stroking its fur again and again. Machi purred contentedly. Emma watched my clumsy yet gentle movements and smiled, her eyes curving into crescent moons. By the way, my family also has a cat. A golden shaded British shorthair named Goldie. Next time I'll bring her so Machi and Goldie can meet. I hummed in agreement, my attention fully on Machi in my arms. From that day on, my lie-flat life gained a fluffy little companion, and Emma now had a more legitimate reason to come to my house. I came to see Machi. She not only came herself, she also brought her cat Goldie. That golden-shaded British shorthair named Goldie looked chunky and adorable, but its personality was nothing like its owner's, aloof to the extreme. The first time Machi met Goldie, he eagerly approached, wanting to cuddle with his new friend. Goldie recoiled with a look of disdain and even reached out a paw to swat Machi. Machi let out a plaintive meow and ran to my feet seeking comfort. I picked him up and glared at that ungrateful golden British shorthair. Goldie turned her head haughtily and refused to look at me. Emma couldn't stop laughing at the side. That's just Goldie's personality. She's a bit slow to warm up, she explained. However, a few days later, the situation had reversed. The aloof Goldie, at some point, started following Machi around intentionally or unintentionally. When Machi went to drink water, it followed along. When Machi played with a yarn ball, it sat quietly watching nearby. When Machi slept, it slept not far away, keeping guard. Looks like a pervert. See, I told you, Goldie actually really likes Machi, Emma said triumphantly. I looked at the two cats stuck together, then at the girl beside me with a radiant smile, and felt a strange sensation in my chest. It was as if my life was being slowly infiltrated by her, becoming less lonely. This feeling isn't bad. Meanwhile, Sophia's days were anything but easy. The failure of the South City project caused her prestige at the company to plummet. Those old foxes on the board began to undermine her authority both openly and behind her back. She was overwhelmed and exhausted, working late into the night every day. That day, she dragged her tired body home to find an empty, cold villa waiting for her. She habitually turned on the TV. The financial channel was broadcasting the news. It is reported that Johnson Group's newly developed mobile game, Mythic Era, reached the top of the global download charts within just 1 week of launch, with revenue already surpassing $1 billion. Industry analysts predict this game will be the biggest dark horse of the year. On the screen was my genius programmer Leo Green being interviewed. He was high-spirited, his words full of gratitude and admiration for me. Without Mr. Johnson, there would be no The Age of Myth. It was Mr. Johnson who gave me boundless trust and support. He is the true genius in my heart. Sophia watched the TV, clutching the remote control tightly. It's Ethan again. It's him again. Why does he always manage to succeed so easily? She didn't understand. She turned off the TV, stood up irritably, and went to pour herself a glass of water. She slipped, her high heel twisted, and she fell to the ground in a humiliating heap. A piercing pain shot through her ankle. She struggled to get up, but couldn't muster any strength. In the empty villa, she was completely alone. Helplessness and grievance flooded her in an instant. She took out her phone and instinctively wanted to dial that familiar number. But when her fingertip touched the 2 letters Ethan on the screen, she stopped. What right did she have to call him? They had already broken off their engagement. And besides, he must be feeling very pleased with himself now. Seeing her in such a pathetic state, he would surely mock her. Sophia bit her lip and finally dialed her assistant's number. However, just when she was at her most embarrassed, the villa door suddenly opened. A person she never expected appeared at the doorway. The person who appeared at the doorway was me. I was carrying an insulated container in my hand, inside which was the black bone chicken soup I had just had the private chef simmer. Why did I come? Because David called me and said Sophia, in an effort to make up for the company's losses, had worked overtime for a week straight and fainted at the office today and was taken to the hospital. But she refused to stay and insisted on going home. David said, Mr. Johnson, Miss Taylor, she's actually quite pitiful. She was raised from childhood to be the heir, carrying everything on her own, with no one around to confide in. After taking such a big fall this time, she's probably feeling awful. I didn't want to get involved, but in her mind, Sophia's fate from the original book inexplicably surfaced. Although she was proud and cold, she wasn't some great villain. In the original novel, after the company went bankrupt, her family forced her to marry an older man with violent tendencies, and she ultimately died in despair. A favored daughter of heaven ending up like that naturally makes one sigh. Oh well, at least they were nominally engaged for a few days. Just consider it. A good deed done for the day. So I went, and she saw her fall to the ground, looking utterly embarrassed. Their eyes met, and awkwardness hung in the air. Sophia's face flushed in an instant, from her cheeks all the way to the roots of her ears. She probably had never been this humiliated in her life. Why are you here? She struggled to sit up, but moving pulled at the injured ankle and a sharp pain made her gasp. Just passing by. I lied without changing my expression, walked over, and set the thermos on the coffee table. Then I crouched down to examine her ankle. It was swollen like a steam bun. Don't move. I held down her foot as she tried to pull it back. My fingertips were warm. When they touched her cold skin, her whole body went rigid. What are you trying to do? Her voice trembled, edged with wariness. I'll treat the wound for you, otherwise your foot will be useless tomorrow. I rummaged through the cabinet beside me, took out the first aid kit, and pulled out an ice pack and some liniment. I had her sit on the sofa, then, half kneeling in front of her, I carefully lifted her foot. Her foot was small and fair, her toes plump and cute, painted with delicate red nail polish. It was a stark contrast to the usual decisive, no-nonsense iceberg female CEO image. I first used an ice pack to help reduce the swelling. Then I poured out some liniment, warmed it in my palms, and gently massaged her. My movements were very light and very professional. I had learned this before I transmigrated, specifically to give massages to my parents who often had sore backs and aching waists. Sophia sat rigidly on the sofa, not daring to move. She kept her head bowed, able only to see my focused profile and the hands earnestly massaging her feet. The warm palms carried a faint scent of medicinal oil, coming through continuously. That warmth seemed to travel up from her ankles and spread all the way into her heart. She couldn't remember how long it had been since anyone had cared for her like this. Since childhood, everyone had only paid attention to how much benefit she could bring to the family, her grades, her abilities. No one had ever asked her whether she was tired or in pain. Her eyes, before she knew it, had grown wet. All right, I finished rubbing her and stood up. Don't move around much these next few days and walk as little as possible. Thank you. Her voice was very soft, thick with a stuffy nasal tone. No need. I opened the thermos, ladled a bowl of black-bone chicken soup, and handed it to her. Drink this. Sophia stared at the steaming bowl of chicken soup, stunned. You, David said you fainted. I explained coolly. Drink this and get some rest. After speaking, I turned to leave. Wait, she suddenly called after me. I turned around. Why? She looked at me, her phoenix-like eyes full of complicated emotions. Why are you helping me? I'm just pitying you. I cut her off, my tone still that same lazy drawl. After all, seeing my former fiancé fall so low and having it get out would be embarrassing for me too, wouldn't it? I spoke the cruelest words, yet did the kindest thing. Sophia's heart felt as if something had slammed into it. She knew this wasn't his true feeling. If he really cared about Face, he wouldn't have been so decisive in proposing to break off the engagement back then. He was just, in his own way, clumsily caring for her. Ethan, she looked at my back, mustered her courage, and asked softly, do we still have a chance? I froze in my tracks. No looking back. Miss Taylor, what's done is done. I turned my back on her with finality. I'm tired. I just want to lie flat. Someone like you is exhausting. We're not right for each other. The door was closed. Sophia sat on the sofa, staring at the bowl of chicken soup still steaming, and tears burst from her eyes again. This time, it wasn't from failure or resentment, but because regret. It seemed like she had missed someone very important. I left Sophia's house feeling a bit conflicted. I admit, seeing her so fragile and helpless did make me soften a little. But that was all. Saving a fallen female CEO is not part of my life plan. I just want to be a salted fish. When I got home and opened the door, maching me out and leapt at me, rubbing against my feet. I picked it up, and the little bit of irritation in my heart was instantly soothed. You still are. I rubbed its furry head. In the living room, Emma was sitting on the carpet, playing with her Goldie using a cat teaser. Goldie, unlike her usual aloofness, chased the teaser, jumping up and down and having a great time. Seeing me come back, Emma's eyes lit up. You're back. She smiled and stood up, naturally taking the jacket from my hands. Have you eaten? I made your favorite barbecue. I looked at the cartoon apron she was wearing, clearly from my house, then at the 4 dishes and a soup laid out on the table, and for a moment felt the illusion of coming home to a warm house with a wife and kids waiting. "Why are you here?" I asked. "I brought Goldie to play with Machi," she said with righteous composure. "And I figured I'd make you a meal while I was at it." That, by the way, was perfectly timed. I changed my shoes, washed my hands, and sat at the dining table. The roast Emma made was rich without being greasy, melting in my mouth. It tasted absolutely divine. "Is it good?" She looked at me with hopeful eyes. I nodded. She immediately grinned like a cat caught with a fish. "If it's good, eat more." She kept serving me dishes, piling my bowl into a little mountain. "You eat too." I took a piece of steak and put in her bowl. Emma froze mid-motion, her cheeks flushing visibly red. She lowered her head and took small bites of the steak, but the corners of her mouth couldn't help lifting. After dinner, as usual, I collapsed on the sofa. Emma, on the other hand, busily cleared the dishes and took them to the kitchen to wash. Watching her busy back in the kitchen, I suddenly felt that this kind of life didn't seem so bad. Just then, my phone rang. "It's David." "Mr. Johnson, there's a charity gala. Would you like to attend?" "I'm not going." I answered instantly. "But Mr. Johnson, this gala is hosted by the city. Many bigwigs will be there. And Miss Taylor will be going too." "Sophia is going too?" I raised an eyebrow. Her leg is like that. Why is she still going to some banquet? What is she going for? I heard it's to salvage the company's reputation. "The Taylor Group is one of the biggest sponsors of this banquet," David said with a trace of regret. I fell silent. A proud person, in order to salvage a lost cause, had no choice but to drag his injured body to social events and offer apologetic smiles. Just picturing that scene makes my heart ache. I know. I hung up the phone. "What's the matter?" Emma came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands as she asked me. "There's a boring dinner party. If you don't want to go, then don't." Emma sat down beside me, casually picked up a grape, peeled it, and brought it to my lips. I opened my mouth and ate it. It was very sweet. But I looked at her. "Sophia will be attending this banquet too." Emma paused with a grape halfway to her mouth. The smile on her face faded slightly, but she still said gently, "Then, do you want to go? If you want to go, I'll go with you." I watched her pretend to be magnanimous and found it amusing. Such a little vinegar jar. "I don't want to go," I said, "but I don't want her to go alone." Emma was stunned. She looked at me, her expression somewhat complicated. "Can you still not let her go?" "No." I shook my head and looked in her eyes very seriously. "I just feel that she's a bit pitiful, and I don't want to see those people go up and kick her when she's down. Those old foxes in the business world are best at elevating some and putting others down. Sophia is like the phoenix fallen into the water right now. Who knows how many people are waiting to watch her fail, even a heap blows on her." Emma fell silent. She kept her head down, not knowing what she was thinking. After a long while, she finally looked up and gave me a big smile. "I understand," she said. "Then I must come with you even more." I didn't follow her logic. "If you want to protect her, then I'll help you protect her." She clenched her fist, her face full of fighting spirit. "The two of us will back her up together. Make everyone who wants to watch the show shut up." I looked at her face, which seemed to say we're a united front, and couldn't help but be torn between crying and laughing. This girl's train of thought really was unlike ordinary people's. "Okay." I finally nodded. "Go then. Just consider it. Watching a grand show." On the night of the charity gala, I wore a subdued yet luxurious custom suit, my arm linked with Emma, who wore a starry blue evening gown, as we appeared at the entrance of the ballroom. The moment we appeared, we instantly became the center of attention. The man was extraordinarily handsome, the woman ethereally beautiful. Standing together, they were simply a perfect match, dazzling to the point of hurting the eyes. Isn't that Ethan from the Johnson Group? And the one beside him? Is that the Wilson family's heiress? Oh my God, are they actually together? Their looks are so perfectly matched. I heard Ethan's been on a roll lately. Whatever he invests and makes money. He's like Midas. The Wilsons are even more powerful than the Taylors. If Ethan's teaming up with them, he's about to reach the top of his life. The surrounding murmurs were neither loud nor quiet, just enough to reach our ears. Emma wasn't used to this kind of scene and nervously gripped my arm. I patted her hand, signaling her to relax. "Don't be afraid, just follow me." I led her, looking straight ahead as we walked into the venue. Soon, I spotted Sophia in the crowd. She was wearing a black, strapless evening gown, her makeup exquisite, her hair swept up high, revealing a graceful swan-like neck. She looked, as always, noble and aloof. But only I knew that beneath her gown her bandaged ankle must be throbbing right now. She was surrounded by several middle-aged men, her face wearing a practiced smile as she held a glass and engaged with them. Those men were all seasoned sharks in the business world. At this moment, their gazes on Sophia carried a hint of ill intent. "Miss Taylor, you're truly young and accomplished. That project in Nan City, though it had some mishaps, your decisiveness makes us old fellows admire you." A Mediterranean man said with a chuckle, his hand nevertheless trying to slip onto Sophia's waist. Sophia stepped back without a change in expression, avoiding his greasy hands. "President Wong, you flatter me. Just a minor setback. Taylor Group can handle it." Her voice remained cool and distant, but if one listened closely, a trace of fatigue could be heard. "Ah, Miss Taylor, don't say that." The other fat man leaned in too. "I think, Miss Taylor, you're just a young woman running such a big company. It's hard work. Why don't you cooperate with us, Huasheng? If you give us the nod, we guarantee to help the Taylor Group through this difficulty." As he spoke, he even gave Sophia a flirtatious wink. Those around them responded with suggestive laughter. Their so-called cooperation was nothing more than opportunism, trying to take advantage of the situation to swallow up the Taylor Group. Sophia's expression darkened, and the fingers holding the wine glass went white from gripping it hard. Just as she was about to lose it, a languid voice sounded. "Oh, is Huasheng that powerful now? It can help the Taylor Group get through a rough patch." Everyone turned to look in the direction of the voice. When they saw it was me, everyone's expressions changed, especially that fat man. The smile on his face froze in an instant. "Johnson, Mr. Johnson." I ignored him and walked straight to Sophia's side, naturally shielding her behind me. Then I looked at the fat man and said with a fake smile, "Don't I recall that Huasheng lost $300 million last quarter and can barely cover its bank loans? How come you suddenly have spare cash to help others now?" The fat man's face instantly flushed the color of a pig's liver. Get lost. I couldn't be bothered to waste words on him. The fat man and those old slicksters didn't dare make a sound. They slunk away in disgrace. The world became quiet. I turned and looked at Sophia. She was looking at me with an extremely complicated expression. There was shock, gratitude, and a hint of an emotion I couldn't read. "You, what did I do?" I raised an eyebrow. "I told you, watching you get bullied doesn't do my face any favors either." Emma, who was standing by my side, spoke up at the right moment. She stepped forward, affectionately hooked her arm through Sophia's other arm, and smiled like a little son. "Sophia, Jia, don't listen to him. He just talks tough but has a soft heart." As she said this, she glanced at me. Some people, even when they care, just can't speak nicely. "Sophia, Jia, when did they get so close?" Sophia was also stunned, looking at Emma in confusion. Emma blinked at her and whispered, "We're allies now, united against outsiders. Let's take down the bad guys." Sophia, me. Now the scene became even more bizarre. Me, Ethan, linking arms with my current rumored girlfriend Emma Wilson with my left hand, and with my right hand, shielding my ex-fiancée Sophia. The three of us stood together, forming a strange iron triangle. The people around us were all dumbfounded. What kind of annual spectacle is this? At that moment, an untimely voice rang out. "Emma, what are you doing here?" A handsome man in a white suit walked toward us. He didn't even look at Sophia or me. His eyes were fixed on Emma, full of admiration. The plot radar in my head went beep. The original novel's male lead, Kevin White, had made his entrance. "Mr. Kevin." Emma saw him and gave a polite nod, her attitude distant. She instinctively moved a little closer to me. That small gesture inexplicably brightened my mood. Kevin's gaze finally shifted away from Emma and landed on me. When he saw Emma holding my arm, his pupils suddenly contracted. A wave of hostility spread instantly. "Who is this?" He looked at me, his tone unfriendly. "He's my boyfriend, Ethan." Emma cut in ahead of me and announced loudly. Her voice was bright and clear, instantly carrying throughout the entire banquet hall. Everyone gasped. It was announced officially. The Wilson family's daughter actually made the announcement publicly. I could feel countless gazes falling on us like searchlights. Kevin's face went dark in an instant. He looked at me as if fire were about to spew from his eyes. "Boyfriend," he sneered. "Emma, don't be fooled by someone like him. What kind of person do you think he is? Who in the whole circle doesn't know? He's just a good-for-nothing who only knows how to eat, drink, and have fun. He doesn't deserve you." If those words had been said before, there would probably have been a whole bunch of people agreeing. But now, silence fell all around. Everyone was looking at Kevin as if he were an idiot. "Big brother, did your internet cut out? Who would dare call Ethan useless now?" That's true wisdom hiding as folly, a god of effortless victory. I looked at Kevin's face, which screamed, "I'm the protagonist, I'm the best," and found it somewhat amusing. Is this what they call the protagonist's halo? Comes with an intelligence-dropping effect. He deserves whatever I say he deserves. Emma shot back without mincing words. "Mr. Kevin, please show some respect. Ethan isn't worthless. He's the most amazing person in my heart." She looked at me with eyes full of trust and adoration. This unconditional defense made my heart tremble sharply. Kevin was so choked up he couldn't speak. He probably hadn't expected that the always gentle and charming Emma would become so sharp-tongued for the sake of a man. "Mr. Kevin." Sophia, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly spoke. Her voice was still cold, but carried an authority that brooked no argument. "What kind of person Ethan isn't for you to judge." She looked at Kevin coolly. "Mind your own business." Kevin was completely stunned. It's one thing for Emma to defend Ethan, but why is Sophia doing it too? Wasn't it said that Sophia and Ethan had called off their engagement and were at each other's throats? What on earth is going on? I watched the original book's male lead being attacked by two heroines at once, and I felt absolutely delighted. See, this is the power of an information gap. You're still on the first floor, and I'm already on the fifth. All right, stop wasting time on people who don't matter, I said lazily, breaking the stalemate. I held Emma with one hand and supported Sophia with the other. "Let's go over there and get something to eat." Then, to the stunned gazes of everyone in the hall, I nonchalantly walked toward the buffet area with two breathtaking beauties, leaving Kevin, who looked utterly bewildered and questioning his life, standing there in disarray. I could feel his poisoned gaze trailing us the whole time. I didn't care. Just a protagonist living in his own world. He couldn't stir up any trouble. I took a plate, served a piece of tiramisu, and handed it to Sophia. "Here, your favorite." Sophia was stunned. She did indeed love desserts, especially tiramisu. But it was her secret. She had never told anyone. How did he know? Of course I wouldn't tell her that I'd read the original and knew that this ice-cold CEO was secretly a sweets-obsessed fan of all things cute. "What are you?" "Just a guess," I said casually. Sophia took the cake and ate it quietly. Emma watched from the side, and instead of getting jealous, she even handed me a piece of matcha mousse. "Have some too, don't just focus on us." I looked at the two of them, one an iceberg, the other like warm sunlight, and at this moment they were standing together eating cake in perfect harmony. This scene was so beautiful I dared not look. "By the way," Emma said as if she'd remembered something, turning to Sophia, "Sophia, I heard about the Nan City project. Don't worry, I'll tell my dad as soon as I get back and ask him to help you. The Wilsons may not have anything else, but we have plenty of money." She patted her chest, all swagger and bravado. Sophia felt a warmth in her heart. She shook her head. "Thank you, Emma, but it's not necessary. This is an issue for our tailor group, and I'll handle it. Although she had fallen on hard times, the pride in her bones remained. That won't do, Emma said in disapproval. We're friends. Friends should help each other. I watched the two of them chattering away and suddenly felt like I was the redundant one. Oh well, never mind. I picked up a piece of Black Forest cake and started eating. Emma, it tastes good. After the charity gala, my life returned to its calm. Every day, I pet the cat, eat, and work out. Occasionally, Emma would drag me to her restaurant to inspect the work and offer a few suggestions. Or Sophia would call me over with a single phone call to help her deal with some minor life troubles. For example, a light bulb in the house went out. For example, the drain was clogged. For example, she wanted to eat at that pizza place in the west of town that's been open for 30 years, but she's hopeless with directions and couldn't find it. Every time I verbally say, "You're so annoying," my body honestly goes over anyway. What can I do? Whenever she asks for help, she looks at me with such a pitiful expression, like a large feline that's been abandoned. I found that once you strip away that cold, hard exterior, Sophia is actually hopeless at everyday life. A genius in her career, a wreck in her personal life. That contrast is, well, kind of lethal. And Emma, regarding my frequent help visits to Sophia, wasn't angry at all. On the contrary, she wholeheartedly approved. She even created a WeChat group called Protect Sister Sophia Alliance. There were only 3 people in the group. Me, her, Sophia. Every day Emma checked in on the group, sharing various pictures of food and cute pets, trying to warm Sophia's cold heart. At first Sophia was still very aloof, only replying or oh. Later, under Emma's persistent harassment, she also began to share some of her everyday life. For example, the drawings made by the children at the orphanage she was anonymously sponsoring. For example, the stray cats she fed by the roadside. I watched the interaction between the 2 women in the group, feeling like an old father, my face full of pride. As for the original novel's male lead, Kevin, he didn't come back to bother us. I only heard that he hated me with a passion and targeted the Johnson group at every turn in the business world. Unfortunately for him, the projects he targeted were ones I already knew were traps or had no intention of touching. His maneuver was like punching cotton. It didn't hurt me in the slightest, but instead left him looking bedraggled. That day, I was at home studying a long-lost set of imperial recipes when David's call came again. "Mr. Johnson, it's bad. What now?" I asked, accustomed. Kevin somehow got hold of the source code for our Mythic era, developed an identical knockoff game, and even beat us to market by launching overseas. He's now aggressively grabbing our market. Oh, stole the source code? This plot point wasn't in the original book. It seems that my appearance has caused the plot's butterfly effect to grow larger and larger. What are you panicking about? I said lightly. What he stole was only the surface. But Mr. Johnson, their game is exactly the same as ours, and it's free. We're losing users badly. David said, nearly in tears. Where's Leo? I asked. Leo has already taken the team to modify the code, but distant water won't put out a nearby fire. Don't let him change it. I said, have him immediately, right now, switch to the 2.0 version we've long prepared. From the start, I had Leo prepare 2 plans for the Project Mythic era. The 1.0 version circulating on the market was just a stripped-down edition. The real core gameplay and art assets are all in the 2.0 version. This is the big gift I prepared for Kevin. Version 2.0. David was stunned for a moment, then elated. Mr. Johnson, do you mean that Pantheon version? Yes, I replied. Tell Leo to put out all the best stuff for me. Also, hold a global launch. I will attend in person. You will attend in person? David was shocked. You should know, ever since I took over the company, I've been a hands-off manager and haven't even entered the office more than a few times. And now, I'm supposed to attend the press conference in person? Yes, I said. It's time to let certain people know who the real boss is. The global launch of Mythic Era version 2.0 is scheduled for 3 days from now. The event was set to take place at the largest convention center in Jing City. Once the news broke, the entire tech and gaming circles exploded. No one expected that after being severely damaged by knockoff games, the Johnson Group would not back down, but instead choose to fight all the way. Even more shocking was that the legendary, elusive, sitting back and winning God Ethan was reportedly going to attend in person. For a time, invitations to the launch event were being scalped for outrageous prices. Countless media outlets and fans wanted to see my true face. On the day of the event, the venue was packed shoulder to shoulder. I wore a simple white, casual outfit and strolled up onto the stage at a leisurely pace. No speech, no teleprompter. The moment I stepped onto the stage, the audience fell silent. Countless flashes focused on me. I picked up the microphone and scanned the crowd. In the front row, I saw Emma and Sophia. The two of them sat together, both looking at me with nervous yet expectant expressions. I smiled at them, signaling for them to relax. Then I began to speak. I know you all came today to see how I would respond to the recent plagiarism scandal. My voice wasn't loud, but through the speakers it reached everyone's ears clearly. Here, I want to say only one thing. I paused, looked into the eyes of everyone in the audience, and spoke word by word. Imitation can never surpass the original. Some people stole our code, thinking they'd gained the whole world. But they don't know that what they stole was just the trash we threw away. Today, I'll show everyone what the real age of myth truly is. After saying that, I snapped my fingers. The huge LED screen behind me lit up in an instant. A CG animation begins to play. Grand music, visuals so exquisitely detailed that every frame could be a wallpaper. A fantastical world suffused with Western mythological color, never seen before, unfolds before everyone. Zeus commands the thunder. Poseidon raises towering waves. Athena wields a spear. Apollo drives the sun chariot. Scenes that existed only in ancient myths have been perfectly recreated. The whole room fell dead silent. Everyone was left speechless, stunned by this Hollywood-level CG. When the CG finished playing, the words Myth Era 2.0, Pantheon, appeared on screen. This, I said calmly, is our Myth Era. It will launch worldwide in 1 hour, and it will be completely free forever. Boom! The audience erupted instantly. Holy shit! These visuals, these effects, this is the true pride of domestic production. Compared to this, Kevin's knockoff game is just a pile of shit. Free forever? Mr. Johnson is so generous. Ethan is awesome. Voice crack, cheers and screams, nearly lifting the roof off the entire venue. I looked at the frenzied crowd below the stage, and the corner of my mouth lifted into a small smile. Kevin, do you see that? This is the difference between you and me. You think you stole my treasure, but in fact, you only picked up the trash I discarded. After the press conference ended, I was surrounded by reporters. I couldn't be bothered to deal with them. So with a bodyguard's escort, I left through a private passage. Emma and Sophia were waiting for me in the car. As soon as I got in, Emma lunged at me and gave me a big bear hug. Ethan, you're amazing. You're basically my god. She planted a smack kiss on my cheek. I was stunned. Sophia, sitting beside me, also looked at me. In her phoenix-like eyes there was no longer coldness or complexity, but pure, unabashed admiration and affection. You! She opened her mouth as if to say something, but in the end only blushed and whispered, "You look very handsome today." I looked at myself, embraced on both sides, and suddenly thought that this life after transmigrating into a book actually isn't so bad. As for that Kevin, I heard that after our press conference his company's stock instantly collapsed. Overnight, he went from a golden boy to a rat in the street, buried in debt. What happened to him afterward, I stopped paying attention, because my life already had more important people and things. For example, what to eat today. For example, what should we name the new litter Machi and Goldie had? For example, I look beside me. One with a smile like a blooming flower, the other an ice queen thawing. Two peerless beauties. Whose card should I flip tonight? This really is a sweet kind of trouble.